Obama to visit Hiroshima, but there's a catch. Now, what may be that catch?
The Associated Press has an interesting story about a powerful gesture here from Obama. He's apparently going to visit Hiroshima, where we dropped the nuke. By visiting the Peace Park near the epicenter of the 1945 attack, the president hopes to reinvigorate efforts worldwide to eliminate nuclear weapons. But in a sign of the extraordinary political sensitivities attached to the gesture, the White House is going out of its way to stress that Obama will not come bearing an apology.
Makes total sense. For one, nuclear weapons are massively destructive. So nations should take strides and efforts to at least diminish their role in determining relations between nations and making sure that it's never used, since Hiroshima was a great example of what happens when we may have to be inclined to using a nuclear weapon. However, America should not apologize. Not at all, because it was Japan who pulled America into the war, the Second World War, by attacking Pearl Harbor. So, if anything, Japan should apologize to America for making them use the nuke.
All right, this story here is quintessential Obama. So what do I mean by that? Half measure. So President Obama, in typical President Obama fashion, he generally leans towards the right side of stuff, but he's not going to go all the way.
There's nothing half-measured about that. He made his message clear. He wants to see a non-nuclear world, and America has absolutely zero reasons to apologize. And hopefully in that trip, he gets to commemorate the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. The image that Kyle's creating of where he's compromising with doing the right thing and not doing the right thing is totally blurred and factually incorrect.
So just to give one example, healthcare. Yeah, I know healthcare reform is the right thing to do.
Has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not America should apologize.
Again, Obama 101. Wall Street reform. Yeah, okay, we know we need to do something because...
Has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not America should apologize.
Now it's, okay, yeah, we dropped some nukes and killed over 100,000 civilians, and that's a tragedy, and it's horrible, and anybody with a fucking basic conscience and a brain goes, ooh, I think we can apologize for that.
Well, the U.S. can apologize, but the U.S. should not apologize. And it goes to the deeper question. Why should the U.S. apologize for ending the Second World War? Because if we remember, it was Japan who attacked Pearl Harbor and pulled the U.S. into the most destructive war of our lifetime, and of any decade, of any year, of any era. And the U.S. ended it. So, if anything, they should get the credit for saving lives, saving Japanese lives, by not invading and by simply ending it right there, then and there. However, if you go on with the leftist analogy of, you kill people, let's just apologize. Japan is yet to formally and specifically apologize to the Philippines, Vietnam, Korea, Burma, Thailand, Malaysia, Taiwan, Indonesia, and Singapore. So, why doesn't Japan, if it wants an apology, take the high road? Why doesn't it apologize to every single one of those countries specifically? And why doesn't it apologize to Manchuria and Nanking for burying people alive and raping them?
But I'm going to go there and I'm not going to apologize because I don't want to piss off the right wing.
The right wing has nothing to do with whether or not Obama should apologize to Japan. Because for one thing, it's independent of one's political views of whether or not the U.S. was right in dropping the nuke. And they were right. So there's no right or left involved when it comes to this specific question. However, it shows Kyle's obsession with the right wing. Because anything right wing, according to him, whatever's right wing is bad, anything left wing is good. And Kyle simply does not understand the fact that maybe sometimes the right wing can be right on certain topics. I don't get his vitriol against any right wing ideas and his scapegoating of the right wing.
So I'm going to go and that's enough, right? But I'm not going to apologize. Oh, tell me how historic this is.
Pretty historic considering the fact that he will be the first U.S. sitting president to visit Hiroshima. That's the definition of being historic.
So if I was the president and I was visiting Hiroshima, would I fucking apologize for it? Fuck yeah, I'd apologize for it.
That is a false and highly improbable hypothetical. We all know that Mr. Kyle Kulinski will never be the U.S. president. However, it again has nothing to do with whether or not Barack Obama the actual president sitting in the White House should go over there and apologize to Japan, which he should not.
See, what people don't understand is whether the action was right or wrong, you can still apologize for it.
That made zero sense. Right actions do not need apologies. Why would right actions need apologies to assume that it was the right action? Actions which are justified are thereby right actions. And it was certainly justified for the US to drop the nuke on the imperialist Japanese Empire for the fact that it ended the most destructive war ever.
Why over 100,000 civilians were killed? You can still fucking apologize. Why? Because any normal, moral human being with a functioning brain goes, you know, if you kill over 100,000 civilians, perhaps that merits an apology. No, you never apologize to anybody, even if you kill over 100,000 civilians. Maybe it's good that over 100,000 civilians die.
We're seeing a pattern with Kyle's arguments and what we generally see from leftist ideologues' arguments about body counts being a basis for morality. We see that with Noam Chomsky, and we see that with other people who justify counting someone as the bad guy because they killed more people. And for one, it fails miserably because it takes no account for intentions behind self-defense or aggressions. However, body counts do not merit apologies. It never has, it never will. The fact that Britain responded to the bombing of London by bombing Berlin, again, does not merit an apology. More Germans died as a result of the Nazi aggression. However, Britain should not apologize for bombing Berlin, Dresden, Hamburg, etc. However, again, there's a bigger issue here, which is that wars always have civilian deaths. So and it's sad whenever any civilian dies, not to mention over 100,000 civilians in Hiroshima. However, but then the next question should be, who is to blame for this? And clearly, the people who started the war, the people who pulled the Allied forces into this war, should be the ones to blame. If Hitler had not invaded Poland or annexed the Sudetenland, we wouldn't see the nuclear bomb being dropped on Hiroshima. And finally, I will issue this challenge that I issued to Kyle previously. Why doesn't Japan apologize to Singapore? Why doesn't Japan apologize to Vietnam? Why doesn't Japan apologize to Nanking for raping people? Why doesn't Japan apologize to Manchuria for burying people alive? Why should the US have to apologize?
Women, children, maybe you didn't hear me. I said innocent people were killed. Like that. If you can't apologize for that, your fucking moral compass is broken.
One total huge false equivalency. Sympathizing with those who died at Hiroshima is not the same as apologizing for taking the right action. And we see that through Japan's Prime Minister's statement of making sure that this is about honoring those who died at Hiroshima 70 years ago. You can commemorate those who died at Hiroshima 70 years ago, but you don't have to apologize for taking the right action, and the US should not apologize for taking the right action.
If anybody else does it, immediately they're a rogue nation, they're a terror state, they're bad people, they're evil, they're immoral, they're backwards. But when we kill 100,000 civilians, not only is there rationalization, also, years later, we say, our liberal democratic president says, well, we can't apologize, don't be crazy.
Another total huge false equivalency. When Saddam Hussein committed a genocide against the Kurdish people by killing 100,000 Kurds at most, that was plainly evil. Not just immoral, but evil. The US winning the war ending the war was not evil and it was rational. The fact that you're not taking intentions, the fact that you're not taking the historical context, and the fact that you're only relying on body counts shows how weak your argument is.
When we kill over 100,000 civilians, we go in there and we show ourselves, and that's enough. Isn't that enough for you? Now you need me to say, I'm sorry I killed women and children and babies. I apologize for that.
You're assuming that the Japanese people want an apology. According to the article you cited, the Prime Minister Abe says no apologies are needed. A survivor has said no apologies are needed. And Japan is a US ally. So let me explain this to you. Even after the US dropped a nuke on Japan, they're still allies and they don't want an apology. And you're the one bitching about how Obama should apologize. Japan moved on because it was a war, which they started and the US ended. When people end wars, we're meant to be happy. And the losing nations have no right to demand an apology, especially for the war they started.
Let me be a jackass, and that's strong. No, you're just a jackass. And Obama caves into that and meets them halfway, which means Obama is a half jackass.
An utter ad hominem attack. Doing the right thing, taking the right action, and ending a deadly war, the deadliest war ever, doesn't make you a jackass. Similarly, not apologizing for doing the right thing, taking the right action, and ending a deadly war, the deadliest war ever, doesn't make you a jackass either. But you know who the real jackasses were? The Japanese imperialists, who occupied lands, raped women, and buried people alive. And it was certainly not the US who ended that war and ended that empire.